You're sitting in a park. The light's doing that late afternoon gold thing, and that's when you see her, sitting down on the bench beside you like she's known you for years. White as snow. Silver, curly hair. Blue eyes so pale they look like they're catching the sun and throwing it right back at you. You're captivated, so you ask her name. She tells you. And then she starts talking about home. She says she's from a tribe in sub-Saharan Africa. And that's when it hits you. You realize she's a black woman with albinism. Everything you just pictured in your head, that white as snow, rearranges itself in real time. So you talk. Somehow you end up trading numbers. Somehow that turns into a date, and she's brilliant. And one date turns into another. And before you know it, you're introducing her as your girlfriend at your best friend's barbecue. Weeks compress into a feeling. You can already see the whole relationship playing out like a movie trailer. And then your alarm goes off. It was just a dream. You lay there for a second staring at the ceiling, and your brain won't let the question go. Does a person like that actually exist? Statistically, yes. But that raises a more interesting question. Not, could she exist, but how rare could a human being actually get if you built one on purpose? So, let's do that. Let's take the 8 billion people currently alive on Earth and start stacking traits on top of each other, one at a time, until we've built the rarest person who has ever lived. We start with ethnicity, because it's the biggest bucket. There are roughly 7,000 distinct ethnic groups on this planet. Some are enormous. Han Chinese alone makes up about 18% of every human being alive. But tucked into the corners of the world are groups so small they barely register. The Sentinelese of the Andaman Islands, the Para of the Amazon, isolated communities in Papua New Guinea numbering in the hundreds. Let's pick a group of exactly 500 people. Out of 8 billion, being born into that specific 500-person group puts you at roughly 1 in 16 million. Now let's add albinism. It's a genetic condition where your body can't produce enough melanin, the pigment that colors your skin, hair, and eyes. That's why someone with albinism has that pale white hair, that translucent skin, those light, almost colorless eyes. On its own, albinism shows up in about 1 in 20,000 people. Stack that onto the ethnicity trait, and your running probability has already dropped somewhere into the hundreds of billions. Next, eyes. You'd think green eyes would be the flex here. They're rare, sure. But we're going rare. We're going for complete heterochromia. 2 eyes, 2 completely different colors. It happens when melanin distributes unevenly during development, leaving one iris darker or lighter than the other. That trait shows up in about 1,667 people. Now, handedness. Here's a fact that trips people up. Twin studies show that even identical twins, sharing the exact same DNA, don't always share the same dominant hand. That's how much of a wild card this trait is. Left-handedness comes from how your brain lateralizes control between hemispheres. And because left-handed people have historically been pressured to switch, underreporting means the real number might be even higher than we think. We'll use a conservative 1 in 10. Stack that onto everything so far, and your running probability just crossed into 1 in 5.33 quadrillion. That's more people than have ever lived on Earth combined, several times over, and we're only halfway done. Let's go rarer. Tetrachromacy. Most people see color through 3 types of cone cells in their eyes. But some women carry a genetic mutation on the X chromosome that gives them a 4th cone, letting them perceive shades of color the rest of us can't even describe because we don't have the hardware to see them. It's estimated at around 1 in 80,000, and because of how it's inherited, it only shows up in women. And finally, hyperthymesia, total autobiographical recall. Ask someone with this condition what they had for lunch on a random Tuesday 11 years ago, and they can tell you, in detail. Neuroscientist James McGaugh, who first documented the condition, studied a woman named Jill Price, who described her memory as living her life like watching a movie that never stops. Fewer than 100 confirmed cases exist worldwide, about 1 in 16 million. So let's recap what we just built. A person from one tiny 500-person ethnic group, with albinism, complete heterochromia, left-handed, tetrachromatic, and blessed, or cursed, with a memory that never lets anything go. Multiply every single one of those probabilities together, and you get a final number, 1 in 6.83 septillion. That number doesn't even make sense on its own, so let's make it make sense. Scientists estimate there are roughly 1 to 2 septillion stars in the entire observable universe, every star in every galaxy that we can currently detect. The odds of this exact person existing are lower than the odds of picking one specific star out of the entire visible cosmos. Still not enough? Try this. There are roughly 7.5 quintillion grains of sand on every beach and desert on Earth combined. To get to 6.83 septillion, you'd need the sand from about 910,000 Earths. And here's the part that should actually keep you up tonight. This isn't even the rarest person you could build. We didn't touch blood type. We didn't touch rare genetic mutations. We didn't touch outlier intelligence, or any of the hundreds of other traits sitting inside human DNA, just waiting to be combined into something even more impossible. But the point was never really about her, or building the rarest person as some kind of trivia exercise. The point is that every single trait we just stacked, the ethnicity you're from, the color of your eyes, the hand you write with, the way your brain holds on to memories, you already have your own specific combination. Nobody else in the history of the species has ever had your exact one. You didn't need a park bench in a dream to become impossible. You already are. So, yeah, there are plenty of fish in the sea. But there's no one else swimming around with your exact stripes. No one else as cool as you. Keep on swimming. If this blew your mind a little, hit subscribe, because we build videos like this every week. And before you go, drop this in the comments. If you could design your own impossible combination of traits, what would you pick? I'll read the wildest ones.